Mike versus the world. In this edition, Auburn has a head coach opening, and many people think Bill O'Brien should be the guy. So the question for Mike versus the world: Bill O'Brien is a good fit at Auburn. Mike, reluctantly, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say why not, and here's why. Okay, again, there's a lot of things here, but what Auburn really needs at this point is they need stability, Mike. They need somebody who can come in there and stabilize the program. I don't think you can take a shot at some young coach, some young inexperienced coach. I don't think you can take a shot on maybe a retread coach that hasn't been in college football for a bunch of years. Bill O'Brien's in college football. He's right in the same state as Auburn. He's got some experience there. Yes, I know he's a bit of a retread from an NFL standpoint, but he's been immersed in college football. I think he's a logical type of coach. I think he's someone who can bring stability. Clearly, he knows how to deal with a mess. When I just need to reference Penn State and just leave that alone. We all think Auburn's a mess internally. Probably nothing will ever top what he had to go through at Penn State. He handled that fairly well. He got them back to respectability. And so while I don't think that this is like the wow hire that Auburn fans are going to go run down the Tumor's corner and start streaking because they're so excited Bill O'Brien's their head coach, I think it's a stable hire. He knows the area, he knows recruiting, he knows offense. Auburn needs to get a little bit of stability back. I think they need a little bit of discipline back. I think the Brian Harsin stuff got off the tracks here and there. I think they just need to go with somebody stable. Don't go with the hot name and sort of the flash in the pan. Don't find some coach who hasn't been coaching for 5 years and bring him back out of nowhere. Don't go get a hot coordinator. I think it goes stability. Again, it's not the sexiest name, and there's probably some people who would absolutely be, horrified at Bill O'Brien, but I'm going to go with why not. You need stability. Bill O'Brien seems like a stable guy, and he's got a fantastic butt chin.
I'm not going to hammer you on this because you took the one I don't think either of us agree with completely. I get all your points are great. And this is what's funny about Alabama fans. Like, oh, please take Bill O'Brien. Please. This is a team that's averaging 43.1 points a game. The only teams in the country averaging more, Tennessee, who outscored them 52-49. So that wasn't an offensive problem. Ohio State and TCU. I mean, so this is a very, very potent offense. It's a good offense. But Alabama fans are spoiled. You lose one game and you don't blow everybody out. Bill O'Brien sucks. Let's get rid of him. It's worse on the defensive side of the ball. But offensively, they're like, oh, take him, please. Now, I agree with your points. What he did at Penn State was great. It was amazing. And I don't think people really appreciate that. It's the second best job I've ever seen in coaching. And the first was Matt Rule, who's not in this discussion yet, at Baylor. They just took a program that's in an unbelievable cesspool of problems without scholarship football players, and they kept it stable. Now, Rule did a better job of elevating the program, and Bill O'Brien took off for the NFL. So I agree with some of your points there. The big issue I have, though, here is Bill O'Brien is a stubborn, narcissistic human being. And I don't think you can plug somebody like that in there. And we learned this at Penn State. We learned this at the Houston Texans most of all. He's an absolute control freak, and he's a narcissist. And he will actually do things against his own agenda, which is odd. He made some moves at Houston that just kind of crippled the franchise itself. So he's almost willing to shoot himself in the foot just to piss off other people. And the people you can't piss off are the old money people at Auburn. You can't go butt heads with them unless you got Saban cachet or you're Lane Kiffin and you don't give a crap. But a Bill O'Brien, I think, would butt heads with these people, and it just wouldn't be a successful fit. From a coaching standpoint, I don't know if he can recruit effectively. He's got the NFL to sell. He's got the experience under Nick Saban. Obviously, I think he did a good job recruiting at Penn State and keeping things alive there. But I'm not sure also if he's the dynamic personality that's going to go into living rooms and lure people away from Saban or Kirby or anybody in Florida. So I'm going to go with that he's not a fit. But I will give you this. The Alabama fans who want to push him out the car as it's running and down the highway, they're kind of moronic. He's done a pretty good job there. But he just wouldn't work in Auburn.
Yeah, it's not ideal, right? If you said, hey, pick the most ideal candidate for Auburn, I would not pick Bill O'Brien. But I think to your point, there's an argument to be made about stability. Listen, he's come from a coaching tree of two individuals, and Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, who, as last I checked, are highly respected in the
Pretty
football
good.
world.
Pretty good.
To your point about him sort of imploding at Houston, I think the challenge there as well, and it is somewhat similar to the college game. So this is going to be an argument I'm going to make that you can throw against me. But at the NFL, he was also trying to be the general manager, and that's not a position Bill O'Brien should have at that level. Now, I understand you're essentially a GM when you're a college head coach as well, but I think there's obviously a lot more at stake in being an NFL GM with salary cap, things like that are way over his head. I think it's maybe a tad more simplistic just in terms of nuance at the college level. But I give you that he certainly did not do a great job, and you see where Houston's at now, and certainly they have a lot of room to maneuver. I just look at it this way: like Auburn's going to have a lot of. A lot of names out there, a lot of sexy names, right? We're gonna try out Deion Sanders, right? We're gonna try out Lane Kiffin. We're gonna try out a lot of these names. And while these guys are probably very dynamic coaches, what's their long term status going to be in those particular jobs? How are they going to handle some of the items that kind of come their way? I think day in and day out. Bill O'Brien's been through a bunch of stuff in New England and obviously in Houston, all not positive, and then spending time in Alabama. Like everybody goes to Alabama to get that rehab coaching experience. And more times than not, the guys that go there for that rehab experience come out better than when they went in, right? Lane's an example. Mike Loxley's an example. Hell, Brian Daboll is a fantastic NFL coach out of nowhere after spending time there. Sark's doing okay at Texas, right? I think you get that a little that Saban mojo. I think it helps you out. I think he can also go to Auburn and say, hey, I know what it's going to be if you go over that school with the red helmets. So here's what you're going to expect. So he can almost negatively recruit them a little bit and use some of their strength against them. Again, not a perfect fit, but I do think there's a pathway where this could make some sense. Now, I will tell you, Auburn fans will lose their ever loving minds if Bill O'Brien's who they trot out, right? But I do think that there could be a pathway to success if this happens to be the move.
Yeah, and so to some of your points there, yeah, I mean, obviously, being a GM and a head coach at the NFL level, first of all, it's astonishing that somebody gave him that opportunity to do that and have full control of an NFL franchise after being an assistant coach at New England and then a couple of years at Penn State. It's just it's unfathomable. But you are a GM, you're a CEO, you're everything in college football, as you said. I think the point about knowing Saban is good and bad. Sure. Kirby knows Saban and Kirby beat Saban, and now he's got a national title. That's the good part. And he's won some recruiting battles against Nick Saban. But I also don't think you want to piss off Nick Saban, and I don't think you want to take a job in the same state as him. Nick Saban's going to be a little extra motivated if one of his assistants goes in state. This hasn't happened. I mean, this was something that Mario Cristobal had to consider when he was offered the Auburn job before Harsin. It's like, do I want to go into that state, not as the Alabama head coach and succeeding Nick Saban, which would be intriguing, but against him? That might piss him off. That might be a problem. And I think that would be also one of the things that we don't really talk a lot about is, you take an Alabama offensive coordinator, you pop him in right from Alabama, where he's got trade secrets and he's got this, that, and the other, and this is how things work over there, and this is why you should come here. Probably not a good mix either. So, my big point is he's just too stubborn.
Yes.
And he's going to butt heads like crazy with these people. My second point would be, it's not ideal for that particular reason that this is not the guy to go ahead.
Mike, don't you want a little stubborn? And hasn't the problem at Auburn been that, frankly, like there hasn't been enough pushback? The boosters just do what they want. So you want a little bit of stubbornness. I agree with you. I think he's got too much of it, but I don't think you want a pushover in there either, right? You don't want some guys like, hey, Jimmy Moneybags, what do you want me to do in 2nd and 10? Like you want someone to have a little bit of pushback. I think Bill has that now. To your point, maybe a little bit too much though.
Well, and my issue there is, yes, you want somebody with some balls going into that job. You want somebody who's going to say, I'm going to do it my way, and that's the way it is. And if that doesn't work out, if you win 6 games one season, they're going to, make up stories and try to get rid of you like they did with Brian Harsin. And you got to be strong enough to endure and overcome that. And he's been through some stuff. I mean, Penn State was difficult, but then Houston Texans, there was a lot of people wanted him fired every year. So he's been through that type of stuff. But yeah, I guess my worry here would be he will shoot himself in the foot to win an argument, which is it just makes no sense. It's ridiculous. It's like he's so stubborn that he'll honestly, I think, and I can't prove this, I think he spun Houston into the ground. And I think he did it out of petulance. Like, oh, you're going to tell me what to do? Well, guess what? I'm going to get rid of this player, this player, this player. I'm going to make these dumb trades, and I'm going to draft these, not good players and all this.
Well, I think, and again, I'm not a Houston Texans apologist by any stretch, nor do I follow them in any level of closeness because I care about my mental health. But I also think there's an element of Bill O'Brien that doesn't want to be challenged, right? And when DeAndre Hopkins challenges him and says he's a bad coach, calling bad plays, like, okay, you're out of here. I think that's the stubborn element of it is I don't want to be challenged, so let me jettison all these guys away who have any sort of ability to challenge my authority. I think he wants to be the sole voice. That could probably play better in some college campuses. I will also say I would be concerned if I'm an Auburn fan about the transfer portal stuff, because I feel like if I get there and this guy's an a-hole like I think he is, I'm gone, right? I'm out of here. So I think there's an element of if he hasn't figured out the personality stuff yet, that could implode quickly. So again, it's not a perfect fit, Mike, but I think you could make it work if you really wanted to. Like I think you could figure it out.
To the a-hole point, I mean, if Bill Belichick were a college coach, and he by all seems he's an a-hole, right?
The portal would be stocked.
They would definitely want to play for him. And Nick Saban doesn't come off as the sweetest man ever, and they would still want to play for him because you're a winner. But can Bill O'Brien be a winner to that level? That's the big thing. So if you're an a-hole, that's great. If you're a winner, if you're an a-hole and you're 6-6, that's a problem.
It's not as charming. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I think that's the concern here too. But to your point, listen, I just see people saying, ugh, horrible. Get rid of them. Alabama fans are just so delusional that they don't understand that this is a good offense. He's done a good job there. They just got a 5-star recruit in the 2024 class who was originally leaning towards Georgia. The guy can recruit, the guy can coach, but he's not a fit because he's just a stubborn man. And if he didn't have that Houston Texans GM coach situation, I probably might have a different take on this. But the fact that he was in charge of everything from trades to draft to X's and O's, and everything I saw from him was just bad management and hurting himself to spite others. That's why I just don't think this is a fit. So it's an interesting argument, and I appreciate you. This was a kind one, right? We were kind to each other.
Maybe kinder than Bill O'Brien is.
You gotta be.